Hello everyone and welcome back to the video. In today's video we're going to be going over Kowloon 5. We'll be doing predictions for top 16, some players that can make runs before and all that good stuff. Our top 16 seeding is Takai, Senra, Now, and Shirayuki in 13th, Takara, Omatsu, Pasariman, and Raito in 9th, Jogabu and Komei in 7th. It says Yara on here twice for some reason. Not really sure why, but trust me, that is Jogabu. Then Yara and Umeki as 5th seeds, Shutone 4th seed, Cosmos 3rd seed, Asimo 2nd seed, and Miya 1st seed. First player that I want to take a look at is going to be Kananabe, who I do think is seeded a little bit too low, especially considering how well he did at Meisuma, and as well as Subageki. He got 9th at Subageki and 7th at Meisuma. Hit a couple rougher regional level tournaments after that, but still, I think he should be seeded a little bit higher. And he is supposed to lose to Cosmos in the winner side of bracket, which will probably happen, just considering how much experience Cosmos has versus Light. They're pretty much static training partners, so Cosmos is incredibly good at the matchup, at least he better be, but maybe that's to his detriment. He's so used to playing Light's Fox that he doesn't know how to play against a different type of Fox, which Kananabe definitely has, so we'll see how that goes, though I would still favor Cosmos for that, though not impossible. I think Kananabe can make a decent losers run, though. He is supposed to lose to Arika, which I think he should win. Puff Fox should be good for Fox, you just kind of beat the character really hard in the neutral game, even though the edge guards could be a little bit tricky. I think Kananabe can definitely play around that, and if he does win that, he goes into Raito, which I don't know if it's going to be Duck Hunt or Banjo. I think it's probably going to be Duck Hunt, and Fox has a really good reflector, so I imagine he does well there. Then he would go into either Pasariman or Shogun, which I'm not really sure how the Ditto would go, but at that point he has way overperformed his seed, so I definitely think Kananabe can get further than he's projected to get. Again, I think he's seeded a little bit low. He had a couple underperformances at some regional tournaments, but his recent majors have been very impressive. Other player that I want to talk about before top 16 is going to be Futari. Now, they are supposed to lose to Takai in the winner side of bracket, which is probably going to happen just because that matchup is incredibly tough for Ice Climbers. It is Sonic, though Sonic does still hit with his face, so it is not impossible, but it's probably going to be a rough time, and assuming they get sent into the losers bracket, that's actually where it gets pretty good for Futari, because they're supposed to go against Saboten, which I do think they have a good chance against. Then, in the losers bracket, the glitches are kind of weird on start.gg. Everything's glitched up, the bracket's all messed up right now, but trust me, this is where Futari would come out, where it says Shisho. They would go against Masashi. They should be able to win that. Then they would go against Now, and if we know anything from Kurama and Big D, the last couple of times they've played, that matchup looks really tough for Mario, because Mario is hitting with his face, and Ice Climbers loves characters like that, so on paper you want to favor Futari there, despite how well Now's been doing. But then they would get into Omatsu, which is definitely not a good matchup for Ice Climbers, but at that point, we've already overperformed the seed, and that's kind of all we really care about. Now, unfortunately, start.gg is bugging out a lot. As you can see, there's duplicates of players all throughout the bracket in the winner side and in the loser side, so it makes it pretty tough to actually see what is going on. So we're just going to move on to the top 16, but if there's any players that you're curious on how I think they'll do, let me know down below, and I'll be sure to go over their runs. So here we have our top 16. This Google Sheets was made, of course, by the lovely ICOOKIEMONSTERZ. Their stuff is, as always, down below. And this is just the projected seeding, just so we can actually talk about every single player within the top 16, starting off with our first matchup of Miya and Jogabu. Now, just considering the momentum that Miya has going into the event, I would favor him already, but it's also Game & Watch Falcon, which is a pretty tough matchup for Falcon, so I'm going to give that one to Miya. Then you have Shutone and Yara, and the only two times that these guys have played, it has gone Shutone's favor both times, so I'm going to give that one to Shutone. Asimo Komei, kind of the same thing as Miya. Asimo's just been playing with such momentum as of late. It's really hard to bet against him, but Komei's a player that is never really out of it. He can win literally every single set he enters, which is pretty scary, so this one I'm not as confident as I am in the first two. Then finally, in the winner side, you have Cosmos and Umeki, and I will favor Cosmos here just because it is Peach versus a massive Sword of Ages, and that neutral can be really, really tough, but Cosmos is a player that sometimes he's going to be giving up free swings. We haven't been seeing him do it a lot recently in bracket, but maybe he gets nervous or something. I don't know. He's in Japan for the first time in the world, a lot of pressure, I'm sure, so hopefully he's playing well. I mean, to get this far in the bracket, he's going to have to be playing pretty good, so I'm going to favor him there, but the same thing is with Umeki. He's one of those players that can kind of just win every match, because when he hits you, he does so much damage, so that could go either way. Also, pretty interesting that Cosmos is seeded over Shutone. Now, usually when people travel from NA, they do seed them a lot higher than they would at a normal tournament, so it makes a little bit of sense from that standard, but just, we're going to have to see how that turns out. Then, in the loser side of bracket, we have Omatsu versus Now. That's just a really tough matchup for Mario. Min is able to wall out that character super hard, but of course, once Mario gets in, he can have some success, so I guess if Now is able to get his opportunities, get his openings, which he definitely can do, because he is crazy, Now is incredibly good, then he could make that upset. Then we have Pasariman and Senra. Now, this one I'm not super confident on, just because I haven't really seen Fox Jigglypuff a ton. think it would probably be in Fox's favor. We kind of already talked about this earlier with Kananabe, but if Senra is able to get those edge guards, he will be able to steal the set, but we're just going to have to see if Passeriman is able to avoid it. Then you have Takara versus Shiryuki. Now, I'm going to bet Shiryuki on this one just because he's so good. His neutral is actually unreal. He's one of the best players in the world, I feel like, in the neutral state. That is kind of an inkling thing as well with the low profiling run. It's like really, really hard to hit that character, but I think Shiryuki will be able to get that as well as setting some clutch edge guards. Then our final matchup is going to be Raito versus Takai, which is going to be Duck Hunt Sonic. So I'm going to get Takai for that one. Maybe Raito has some magic, and honestly, he's been doing pretty well in the bracket as of late to earn that 9th seed, and he is doing it with Duck Hunt. So again, not a great matchup, but when you're playing Duck Hunt all the time, most of the time it isn't a great matchup, so Raito definitely could take it, but I think I'd have to favor Takai for that one. Now, for 9th place, our first matchup is going to be Umeki versus Omatsu, and I feel like that'd be a really tough matchup for Peach. I just don't know how you're supposed to get in versus Min-Min, and the whole thing about Peach that's really good is that her microspacing game is on point, but against Min-Min, it's really, really hard to microspace, and even when you do, it doesn't really matter because you're not getting a punish anyway, because if you're microspacing right outside of her range, you're like halfway across the stage, so definitely favor Omatsu on that one. Kome Passeriman, I'm going to favor Kome, but this could go either way. This is probably out of all the sets right here, the one I'm the least confident on, just because I'm not super sure about the matchup, as well as the players being very similar in strengths, as well as sometimes they both just have amazing games, and sometimes they have pretty weak games, so we're going to have to see how that turns out. Yara Shiryuki, I'm going to favor Yara on that one, though Shiryuki can definitely steal it. Shiryuki's just such a scary player, one of the best, I mean, the best Inkling right now, pretty much uncontested. There's not a ton of Inkling players doing as well as Shiryuki is, though there is some people still making raves with the character, because Inkling, despite what the media wants you to think, is still a decent character. She just has a really hard time finding her win condition, kind of like Palutena. The neutral game's really good, the combo game's really good, but then getting the kill can be a huge problem. And against a character like Samus, you need to be able to secure that kill because they can tack on damage super easily. Sorry, I had some mic issues there, but our final matchup is Jogabu and Takai, and a little bit of a spoiler, but I'm going to guess Takai just because I feel like that isn't a great match for Falcon, but I also am self-admittedly a Falcon hater. I don't have a lot of faith in this character, and Sonic has the best edge guarding in the game. That is somewhere where Falcon definitely struggles, so I imagine Takai will be able to abuse that, but if he can't quite abuse him and lock down Jogabu in the air, and it's kind of hard to lock down Falcon's air drift sometimes, then Jogabu can definitely steal that set. You know, Falcon is still a character that if he hits you with the right confirm at the right percent, you can absolutely explode, so that could also go either way, but I would definitely favor Takai for it. Our loser's 7th matches are Omatsu, Kome, and Yara Takai, and for Omatsu Kome, I have no idea. Out of all of the matches that are supposed to happen here, this is by far the one that I'm the most confident on, because not only is the matchup pretty even for Min-Min and Shulk, I don't think these guys have ever played before. I don't really know how this is going to go. I'm going to guess Omatsu just because if I have to pick a character between Shulk and Min-Min, Min-Min's probably going to be doing better in tournament, but Shulk can definitely use Speed Art to get in Min-Min's range, and then as well as Smash Art just being a huge clutch factor, maybe using Shield Art off stage so you don't get poked too far away. It could be a very interesting matchup, but I'm going to give that one to Omatsu because Min-Min is broken. Not that Shulk isn't either, Min-Min is just extra kind of broken. Then you have Yara and Takai. This one's also a little interesting because I don't think these guys have played ever also. Yara has lost to Ken before, but I don't know if that was Sephiroth or Sonic. Assuming, though, it was Sonic, then I'm going to say that Takai wins that. As well as, again, one of those matchups on paper, do you favor Samus or Sonic? I'm almost always going to be favoring the Sonic player just because that character is ridiculous. But this one could also go either way. There's a lot of matchups here in this tournament that we haven't really seen before. But speaking of a matchup that we have seen before, we have Miya Shutone. And again, Miya's momentum has been crazy lately, as well as he beat Shutone the last time they played, so I'm going to favor Miya for that one. Now we have Osimo Cosmos, which is a little bit more interesting because they are 1-1 lifetime. Osimo destroyed Cosmos the first time they played. The last time they played was at Leota C, I believe, and Cosmos did take that. So off of the recency, I'm going to say Cosmos has, as well as I've just been very impressed by Cosmos lately. He's been looking incredible, but Osimo has been at the top of his game, so this one could honestly go either way. And also another thing to factor in is that Osimo did beat Shutone the last 2 times they played. Overall, it is negative for Osimo. I think it's like 4-2 in Shutone's favor or something. And I don't know if those matchups were against Olimar or the Aegis, but we've seen a lot more Aegis from Shutone lately. So I'm going to guess it was against the Aegis. So despite that, I am still going to go Cosmos. But Osimo, he definitely has the matchup experience, and he definitely can close it out. In losers quarters, we have Shutone and Omatsu. And I'm going to be guessing Shutone for this one just because we've seen Shutone take a couple games and sets off of Bonham's Min-Min, which is definitely the best Min-Min in the world. Though Omatsu jutsu is crazy. I think Shuton will be able to take that one, though it's not impossible because if you edge guard Aegis, the matchup could be very easily solved. But it also might be Olimar from Shuton. I'm not really sure who will play in that one, but regardless, I think Shuton takes it. Then we have Osimo versus Takai. I'm also going to guess Osimo, even though Takai is a very impressive player and Sonic is ridiculous. Osimo has just been so impressive lately, as well as him being pretty good versus Sonic. Honestly, I've been very impressed when I watch him play. I think the way that he uses Fireball in the matchup is very smart, so I'm going to be guessing Osimo for that one. And now we have our final four of Miya, Cosmos, and Shuton Osimo. Starting off with Miya Cosmos, I'm going to be guessing Miya just because he's so good, as well as him being able to beat Shuton the last couple times they played, or at least the last time they played. And they are different players, you know, Cosmos and Shuton, they're not the same, as well as Olimar being a factor for Shuton. But Aegis isn't a character that you can mix up a ton, you know. The game plan with Mithra is kind of just like, I'm going to use my broken frame data in neutral. You're going to kind of just have to deal with it, and Miya clearly knows how to deal with it. He is amazing around playing against sword characters, so I'm going to be favoring Miya for that one. Now we have Shuton Osimo. This is a very interesting matchup because the last time that they played, I do believe that Osimo actually take it. The last two times that they played, you have Osimo taking it at Leota C and at Meisuma top 11. So going off of history, I'm going to be guessing that Osimo takes that one. Oops, put a 4 instead of a 3. But I'm going to guess Osimo takes that one. Then we have Cosmos versus Osimo. And I'm going to say that Osimo gets it in the run back just because his adaptation is crazy. Osimo is like, he is so good. It's actually unreal. Kind of boring. It feels like I'm just going to seeding here because I am going to guess Miya wins it. So the top 4 seeding that I have was all the same. But I think the top 4 at this tournament was seeded pretty well. Maybe you want to change Cosmos and Shuton around. But also, Shuton hasn't been doing the best lately. And Cosmos has been having some stellar performances. So I thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Sorry we didn't go over as many runs as we usually do in this video. But it was just kind of tough because the start.gg was so scuffed. And I have to record this video today, unfortunately. So if there's any top players that I left out, please let me know down below. I'll tell you how their bracket's going to be. And the link will be down below as well to the start.gg bracket, as well as to this Google Sheets. Again, huge shouts to ICOOKIEMONSTERZ. And I thank you guys for everything. Sport's been absolutely unreal. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.